Hey, this is Pastor Diana, pastor of Covenant Community Church in Elba. Today I'm recording a series of podcasts to go over some of the sermon series we've had thus far in September. We've been doing a sermon series called We Make the Road by Walking, based on the book by Brian McLaren, based on the same title. And today I want to talk about our sermon from week 1. I'm not going to be a perfectionist today in this podcast, or otherwise I'd be in my recording studio, otherwise known as my bedroom closet, trying to make this perfect. I'm going to say that there will be pauses and slurs and perhaps ums, but go with me. From the beginning of time, people have asked everywhere some important questions. One of those that I even ask myself is the question, why am I here? Not like why am I in this room, but why am I here on the earth right now in this moment, in this place? How did I get here? Well, there's many theories on the creation narrative, but scientists and theologians seem to agree on this principle that it all began with light. Some call it let there be light, like in Genesis, and some describe it as the Big Bang. But for me, these two have never been conflicting thoughts, yet they are very connecting thoughts. There has been this movement for years and years of Christians decrying scientific theories of like the Big Bang or anything scientific being anti-God. But why does it have to be one thing or the other? Can't it be one thing explaining in depth the other? Can't it be science helping explain faith and faith helping to explain science? I was raised by a nurse and a physicist, both Christians. So for me, this idea of science and faith have always been naturally connected. My father was very great to have meaningful dialogues throughout the years of the greatness of God on display through science. I love hearing him say things like, leave room in your faith for new discoveries, such as space aliens. Leave room in your faith that if one day on the news they say, we have discovered, green beings with 5 eyes on a different universe, that God is big enough to handle that new discovery. The wonders of science have been explained by God's greatness, and the greatness of God has been on display by science. The goodness, the awe, the wonder of it all seem to be why so many people for all of time have tried to make sense of it. We're just trying to describe the indescribable, to give words to that which there are no words. In this first week, we take a look at the first story about first things and first people. Today, I want us to try to hear it for the first time. In this Genesis 1 reading, and please take time, stop here and read that, I want us to consider a way that the first ancient people would have heard this story. So imagine you're living in a primitive time. You live day by day. And this is way before any culture invented an alphabet or a written language. There's no real concept of I and me, but it's just us. It's just we. You and your ancestors have a lot of time each day to ponder your existence. You are amazed at the way that the sun goes up and down each day. You are amazed at the leaves falling off the trees to make an appearance like clockwork each spring. You are amazed at the intricate patterns on each butterfly's wings and the complex anatomy of the human body. Children in these days are also so quizzical as to the origins of all these wonders. So you together begin to try to make sense of all this evidence that is before you. There's no scientific journals, no history books to look in, no religious documents, no charts and graphs, no microscopes or telescopes. It's just what your eyes are telling you, your ears are hearing, and what Grandma is telling you around the campfire as you go to sleep each night. The community gathered these stories that eventually became widely accepted ways of the way things are the way they are. The way that these stories were formed had a rhythm to them in order to be told easily, remembered easily, and passed down easily. To the ancient teller and recipients of these stories, it wasn't important that the stories were historically accurate, but that the stories were faithful to the world as they understood it. The greatest meaning in this creation narrative is there's all of this wonderful stuff out there that was created. And so a child might ask, how did it get here? Who put it all together or in motion? And the teller would say, oh, there's a great force that created all of this. So in our Judeo-Christian narrative of the creation story in the Genesis 1, there's this 6-day poetic formula that utilizes a list of all the great things that God created. The story is colorful and captivating. It is easily told, easily shared, and easily passed down generation to generation. And this story even helps me tell this story in a simple way to my small children. But this story was never passed down with the intention of it being considered a historical document. That was not important to the first recipients of this and other Old Testament narratives. It is a story, an important story of God, and God working in and through the lives of God's people. These are stories that proclaim God, that show God, that promote God. This creation narrative explains to us that we are the ultimate creation, the most important creation over seashells and lizards and stars. We are at the top, but we are still part of this universe, created by someone, some being greater than us. Sometimes our familiarity with sacred text makes the story much less amazing. We get really used to this famous story about in the beginning, and we forget that this story is an amazing, amazing story of the world and the universe. We forget that this story is trying to explain that God was the one that created complex organisms, capable of communicating, creating, working, and loving, capable of joining together with God's work. Today, I challenge you to think about just how babies are made. Not like a question from a 5-year-old, but really, how babies are made from such a small thing that becomes such a complex being. And for babies, once they open their eyes and look around the world and hear the world, they see how amazing the world is. Hair is wonderful and worth tugging. Doggies are wonderful. Heck, ceiling fans are even wonderful. Imagine seeing for the first time, seeing a thunderhead in the distance. Mind-blowing. Think about seeing the ocean for the first time. Amazing. Think about the beauty of even how a sun can shine through a green leaf. It's beautiful. This week, look around you and pause in awe and wonder, thinking of God as the creator, God as powerful. God is the one who put into motion all of this creation and still maintains control over creation.